Welcome, low ego action heroes. I hope my microphone is working today. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. And this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, though it is an hour earlier than it normally is because I'm speaking at an event tonight. And who's the opening act there? Dr. Nick. So I will get to see him hopefully there. So this is when I take your questions live. Normally we do this at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, but we are doing it at this time today because I have something else cooking. And I got about 8 questions already, so I might not even have time to take any more questions today because I cannot be late today, but you can ask them at deltacx.com. Oh, sorry, not that one. I have the wrong one up. You can go there, but it will be deltacx.link/ask. And I'm going to start with the questions that came in, and we'll go until I have to go to the other event. So, and of course, let's also quickly thank all of the people who are financially donating to the channel through the YouTube join button, paying $3 to $10 per month. And thank you very much to everybody. You are keeping me in delicious chocolate chips. So always appreciated, but totally optional. Okay, so let's take a look at the questions that have come in ahead of time. Some of them were quite a while ago because we didn't have this show last week, also because I was speaking at an event. It's getting into event season. Sorry, everybody. So this question was, curious, why do you dislike empathy maps? I'm not a fan of empathy maps for 2 main reasons. One is, everyone knows what I'm going to roll out now. Meaningful, actionable, helpful. So what are you going to do differently in your UX strategy or in your design because of the empathy map? Hopefully you're going to do some things different with your strategy and your design and information architecture because of what we learned in the research, which would have ended up in your, I should turn my mic up a bit, which would have ended up in your report or in your, on your affinity diagram, and then in your presentation, your findings, insights, opportunities. But what about the empathy map itself? So separate from any other things we might report on in UX research, is the empathy map meaningful? If we say people felt this and thought this, well, isn't that captured already in our report or presentation? And what they're doing, this is already captured in my report. So number one, for me, the empathy map doesn't really have a place because anything it would include, I'm already putting into a meaningful, actionable, and helpful research report or presentation. Oops, let me put back the question. Number 2 is that unless you've done observational research, then you don't know what people are necessarily doing. There's a difference between what you've seen them do and what they report that they do. We know that these aren't always the same. What about what they think and what they feel? How do you know what they think and what they feel? Unless somebody said, you know what I'm thinking right now? This. You know how I'm feeling right now? This. If they did not express these openly, then I'm concerned that these are guesses, assumptions, extrapolations. I don't know, what's the right word? I'm not feeling well and everybody on Slack knows it. So I'm worried that these are conjecture. I'm worried that your empathy map is half guessed because you might have heard what people say. And you might have seen what people do if you did observational research. Hi, Jatine. But are we sure we really know what they feel and what they think? And I'm worried that these are too often guessed, assumed, and that makes it garbage. But to me, mostly it's garbage because there's nothing I need from an empathy map for the later steps of my process. Alan has a question. So Alan, I'm going to have to put you on the end of the list, and we already have like 8 questions. So I hope you'll stick around because people do send in their questions ahead of time at deltacx.link/ask. So those come first. So I'm going to try to get through those as fast as I can so we can get to Alan, who is the first live question today. The next question is, hey, Debbie, people probably asked this many times, but I couldn't find it. How do you tell who's a senior designer? What's your standards? What do you consider? So for me, I am looking for, thank you, Alan, I'm looking for a higher level of, let's put comments on the screen today. I'm looking for a higher level of proficiency than a junior. I'm looking for I'm looking for the experience that they've gathered over the 5 or so years that they've been doing this to really show in their work that they can really, they're more likely to be able to hit the ground running. They're probably a little bit more self-sufficient or self-managed. They might have work reviews or work QA, but they're less likely to be they're certainly at this point not making newbie mistakes, whereas I would expect juniors to make newbie mistakes. Seniors are often typically more strategic. I find that they tend to be more strategic about, okay, here is the project that we have, or here's the outcome we're looking for. Which UX tasks do I need to do? How long are they likely to take? What's the order of them? What's my priorities? And to me, that's definitely more senior stuff. I also sometimes roll out the phases of proficiency model that I use. And this reminds us that we need to use science and technique. Building blocks is not for us. Building blocks is for people who want to pretend they're doing UX or just dipping their toe in the water. But in order to do our jobs well, we need to show that science and technique. So the longer somebody's working in UX, the more I would expect to see a real process, a real approach, a real technique, real skill, and being organized and having that strategy as well at the senior level. Seniors at some companies might also be doing a little bit of mentoring or coaching or reviewing work for people who are junior to them. So that doesn't always happen at the senior level, but it could, and that can certainly help that senior move up into more of a lead if your work has room for lead. Hey, Ikening, how are you? Good to see you. I'm curious about where you are working. Since last I spoke to you, you were working. So let's see, can I roll this one out? No, I've got to roll it out this way. So anyway, that's some of the things I look for in a senior. I know most managers should have some sort of competency matrix or diagram or a spreadsheet or something that says, this is what we expect from people at each level. So mine may not match up with other people's, but I try to keep mine really simple. And I just, I believe that promoting UX is for everyone, and understanding UX is for everyone, and doing great work is important at every level, but I don't expect a more junior person to do as great work as consistently as a senior. I expect the junior to need a lot more work reviews and a lot more coaching and help, and I expect a senior to be a little bit more off and running. I think a good example is when I had a senior title just a handful of years ago when I was a contractor at Macy's. My manager was like, okay, you've been doing this for a while. Do you need one-on-ones weekly? I was like, not really. Maybe we can book them if we feel like we need to talk. And he's like, do you need work reviews? I'm like, you're welcome to look at it. Otherwise, I'm going to show it to my team lead. He's like, all right. So I think that once you have 5, 7, or whatever years, we do tend to expect a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Self-managing or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well today. Hi, Yinka. Yeah, this one is an hour earlier than usual, so I know it's throwing some people off. Yeah, keep me posted, Ikening. Let me grab our next question so I can blow through these and help as many people as I can today while I'm feeling well enough. All right, next question. This was a bit more complicated. Let's put it up. Hi, when you're starting a project, what tools do you use for understanding the business vision and targets? What do you do when you realize your project should involve multiple stakeholders and you have to deal with multiple departments, and how do you align them? Is that the job of a UX designer? Whoa, so many questions here, but they are good questions. So let's talk about this a little bit. So how do I understand the business vision and targets? Sometimes that comes from a product manager, usually a product manager or sometimes product owner, depending upon how your company does it, maybe even a project manager. They are supposed to kind of build that bridge between business goals and needs and metrics and targets and user and customer needs and goals and targets. So very often the product person, if you have one, builds that bridge between the two. So is that necessarily your job? maybe, depending upon the company, but I would probably expect a product manager to communicate some of these things to me. These are our business goals. These are our user goals. If they're not thinking about user goals, that's definitely going to be your job, but then the business goals might be pretty funky. Sometimes they work against user goals. There aren't any particular tools that I use. My tool is talking to humans. So if there is a project and I'm not sure what the business is thinking or what they're hoping to get out of this, I am talking to people. That might be a stakeholder, that might be a strategist, that might be the product manager or business analyst, that might be someone from engineering. So we've got to learn what everybody's expecting from this. Now, be careful with business vision. We don't want the business to design the thing. Then we are just a feature factory and UX is a disrespected pair of hands. But hopefully you're not talking about that. What do you do when you realize your project should involve multiple stakeholders and you have to deal with multiple departments? That's pretty common. I would say that's every project I've ever done, unless I've come in as sometimes people hire my company and I don't deal, as an outside company, I deal with the people who hired me and not all the stakeholders there. They run interference on that. But at my corporate jobs and contracts, no, I am often dealing with multiple stakeholders because in a sense, our product manager is a stakeholder, our engineering lead is a stakeholder, and the people above them who funded the project or wanted the project or however this is happening, they're stakeholders as well. So you do have to deal with multiple departments. How do you align them? Hypothetically, they should have been aligned before the project started. If they are not aligned, then this is going to be a very difficult project because if stakeholder A wants this and stakeholder B needs this and stakeholder C is trying to prove this and stakeholder D wants to have this outcome and they're not aligned, then how are you ever going to do a good job on this project? At least one of those people, and maybe all of them, are going to feel like you missed it, you didn't get it, you didn't do what I needed, which is a good point. I'm going to write this down. Align stakeholders before project starts. That seems so obvious, but yet it is not done enough. Someone funds a project, and there we are. We are off and running doing this project, and people are just fighting and disagreeing. So great question, because it reminds us this has to happen ahead of time. And how do you align them? Again, we just talked about that. Is that part of the job of UX designer? It really depends. It really depends, because at some companies, UX is expected to have that role and be in that position. And in other companies, I haven't been in that role or position. The product manager or a project manager was juggling multiple different angles or stakeholders or outcomes or needs or KPIs. And my job was just to do the best UX work that I could. So I would say it really depends on the company. And I can't say it's always a certain way, but I would definitely say it's important for those people to be aligned ahead of time, because maybe the project shouldn't start if we're not aligned on how it's going to go and what the desired outcomes are, especially those user outcomes. All right. This is a question that I got, and I think it's from somebody who is a consultant and gets questions from their clients and then asks them to me. So isn't that interesting? So this question says, I'm a business analyst. In the past, designers have invited me to research co-creation sessions. While these sessions are eye-openers, I wonder, is the research analysis a task that only designers should do and business people should only keep informed? Or is there any room for co-creation? If yes, why not? So there's a lot happening in this question that we need to talk about. So they're a business analyst. Cool. I'm not too sure why they're saying designers doing research analysis. So it makes me want to ask a lot more questions of this person about what's happening at their company. Do they have separate dedicated researchers and designers? Or are they making everybody a jack of all unicorn where the designer is the researcher? So I'm not too sure about that part, but let's assume that they're just talking about researchers for the purposes of this question. It says designers have invited me to research co-creation sessions. So it sounds like this company does not have separate researchers and designers. I would be recommending to that company that they separate these two because they're separate specialties. And especially if you're going to use something like Tri-Track Agile, where research and design are always happening at the same time in separate work streams, you can't have one person on that because there's two streams of work happening at once, which implies that there's at least one person on each. I recommend more than one person. I know that's a bit of a future dream, but I recommend 3 researchers and 2 architects, which some people call designers, per project, product manager, engineering team, however you want to match it up. So designers are inviting you to research co-creation sessions. I don't even really know what that means. I don't know whether that means something good, like they want to talk to you about planning the research and what you're hoping to get out of the research so that we can make sure that when we do the research, your needs and questions and assumptions are addressed, or if they genuinely mean that you are co-doing the research in some way. And sometimes that's happening at companies for a variety of reasons, and to me, they're normally not good reasons. Sometimes a designer might be and again, I can't say for your company, sometimes a designer might be doing research co-creation sessions because they're not comfortable doing research. They're not experts in research, and so they think, well, if I just do this as a team effort and it doesn't go great, it's not my fault. Whereas if they were to do that work alone and it didn't go great, it would quite clearly be their fault. So sometimes I see co-creation and work by committee sessions used by people who are concerned that they're dealing in an area that isn't their strength, and they're looking for ways to make it everybody's fault in case it doesn't go well. So I would say I'm not too sure what a research co-creation session is, and I'm definitely concerned that this is not customer-centric. And I've got a new word for things that aren't customer-centric, and that would be customer peripheric. The customers in our peripheral vision, we're not really looking right at them. They're kind of on the outside. We want to be customer-centric, and the best way to do that is to play to our strengths and specialties and not invite everybody to endless workshops and whatever co-creation means. Hey, Wilson, good to see you. Surprised to see you on LinkedIn, though, instead of YouTube, but hello, good to see you nonetheless. So is research analysis a task that only designers should do? Let's just cut out that part of the question. Designers possibly should not be doing research analysis. So yes, I would definitely not want business analysts to do research analysis. That is something specialized that UX does. And if the designer is not great at research, I don't want them doing the analysis either. But my guess from this question is that because a designer is probably not that great at research analysis, they're holding group workshops to analyze the research so that they don't have to do it themselves. And if it doesn't get analyzed well, it's not their fault. So I don't believe in these types of workshops or co-creation sessions or working sessions. And I would say someone needs to rescue that designer and get them a proper researcher so that they can do the design and a specialized researcher can do the research. Alan says, ooh, I like customer-centric versus peripheric. Yeah, I didn't choose peripheral because then it sounds like you're plugging the customer into the side of your computer. So I'm going with peripheric. So should business analysts be involved in this or only be informed in this? Is there any room for co-creation? Okay, so again, I believe that we have to play to our specialties. I would say to that business analyst, how much of your work are you getting done in co-creation sessions? Because hypothetically, you could get all of your work done in co-creation sessions and workshops and working sessions. Are you doing that? Probably not. I've never seen a business analysis co-creation or workshop. That is not the best way to get work done. It is not the best use of everybody's time. It is not the way to create high-performing teams who can do their own work without codependency. So I would say someone like a business analyst should be involved in research. Yeah, Kayla, little customer USB drives. I would say that Someone like a business analyst should be involved, and really everybody who's not in CX or UX can be involved in two key places in research. One, the planning, to make sure that we're addressing the questions that you have and the things you want to learn from the research, to make sure we create the tasks or write the questions, to make sure we learn those things for you so that we are your business intelligence team. And then second, when the sessions are actually happening, it would be great to have people join live, cameras off, microphones muted. You don't start talking to the people. You are not the facilitator here, but to watch them live, especially for people saying they want firsthand experience with that customer. Remember, you don't have to have the questions coming out of your mouth to have firsthand experience, but you can be there. You can watch those sessions later. As for analysis, synthesis, finding insights, opportunities, task analysis, optimized task flow, customer journey maps, personas, typologies, and service blueprints, and the like, I would not want a business analyst involved in that. They would be more on the informed side rather than the involved side. Okay, I hope that answers that question. Next question that came in ahead of time looks like this. Copy paste. What tools do you use for user research analysis? Can it be anywhere, such as Excel, Figma, Google Docs, or others? And what tool for transcriptions do you use, if you even use transcriptions tools? Okay, so remember that in research, we can be tool agnostic. Our work, like if, for example, if you use, let's say, for example, I use Dovetail, not sponsored. I pay them, they don't pay me. So if I use Dovetail for research, that's a tool, and it can help me be more efficient. But if Dovetail fell into the ocean tomorrow and I couldn't use them again, I could use anything else. So it's not like, ooh, if I learn Dovetail, I'll know how to do UX research analysis, or I'll be able to be a better researcher or whatever. Dovetail makes us more efficient here at Delta CX, but it doesn't make us better at what we do. We have to bring that skill to the table. So don't get caught up in the common mistake of thinking that if you learn some tools, you're doing great work, or you learn some tools and you've leveled up in some way. Tools are just ways for us to be more efficient in the work that we should know how to do anyway. So for research analysis, currently we've been using Dovetail. We don't use it as a repository. We use it for transcription, coding, tagging, organizing things by themes, and creating video clip montages. We also sometimes do make affinity boards. We do that in Miro, not sponsored. I pay them, they don't pay me. Many people do use Excel, or they could use Figma in a Miro kind of way. We do tend to do some stuff in Google Docs as well. Sometimes we start our research report in Google Docs so we can all collaborate on it. Because even though I do use Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, their online collaboration tools are terrible. For transcription, I sometimes also use Otter. Again, not sponsored. I pay them. They don't pay me. But these are some of the tools that I'm using in the Delta CX world. But again, if you used other tools, that doesn't matter. It's the quality of the research that we did and the insights and other things that we find that are most important, and what tool you use to get there kind of doesn't matter. So pick one you like. All right, next question. And all these came in ahead of time. Also, let me remind everybody, please do subscribe here. We're on YouTube. Everybody come on over to YouTube and subscribe to the Delta CX YouTube channel. All of our videos are archived here, so they're easy to search through YouTube's super powerful search. If you have a topic you're interested in, go search for Delta CX, whatever's on your mind, and you'll see everything that we've got. If you are interested in some links related to the show, deltacx.com/links will answer your questions like, what's the show schedule? How do I send in something ahead of time? How do I get coaching with Debbie, etc. So that's all there. And then also another quick plug, I am doing a full one-day workshop in April with a new program that I've created called Transforming Toward Customer Centricity. Well, I will be teaching people at all levels some of the things I do when I consult at companies and try to help them improve their UX practice, relationships with UX, their processes, and being more customer-centric in general. So check it out. It's $97 American if your work is paying for it, and if not and it's coming out of your pocket, it is $27 American. So it is designed to be affordable by almost everybody. So check it out at deltacx.link/TTCC, and then actually you could use TTCC training. I've got a shorter link there. Let me write that down. Can you get a copy strike for whistling a song on YouTube? I do not know. Do not know. Don't want to find out. I guess that's all I'll whistle. All right. Okay. So, hi, Kayleen. Good to see you. Okay. So, what question were we up to? Here's the new question. I'm a UX designer in a company for more than 2 years, and I want to level up in my career. How can I ask for it in the company? We don't have junior, senior, or higher, just students and designers. So again, this is one of those questions that I get that's really better for your manager, because I can't say. If you do not have levels and you do not have competency matrix or document or a path to promotions and things like that, because if you've been there 2 years, you should be moving from a junior title to a mid-level title, and of course mid-level pay. So I think this is something you'll have to take up with your manager, and feel free to show them this video and say, hi, anonymous person's manager, this is the time when this person should be promoted, especially if they're doing a good job. If they're not doing a good job, you should be talking to them about that and supporting them and helping them. But if they are doing a good job, it is time to promote them. And I think it'll be important in your company to create some of those levels so that people know that they've got a career there. Because if you've only got students and non-students, then this person is going to start looking for a job. And I would support them, because I do want to see them leveling up. I do want to see them getting paid more. And you can lose a good person because you have not defined a clear career path and what you expect from that person to move up that career ladder. So I would say to the person who wrote this, I'm not sure there's anything you can do, because I don't think you're doing anything wrong necessarily. I think you're just going to have to get up the guts to have that conversation with your manager and say, how do I get promoted here? I want to know that there is a future here where I am moving up towards something. Hope that helps. Next question. I would like to get more roles in UX strategy. I want to actively attend the meetings with stakeholders and leaders and understand the business needs. But UX designers are not invited to these meetings in many companies. Only PM and PO can join them. How can I get roles in strategy in this kind of structure? Okay, and Yinka, we will add your question to the end after Alan's. But Yinka, can you describe what stay afloat means? Because I don't know what that means. Okay, for the person who asked the question on this side of the screen, I would say ask to go to those meetings. Hi, PM. It would be really important for me to get more firsthand information about this stuff and be, have more awareness of these projects and the conversations happening around them, because it might affect where we go with the product strategy or the UX. And I'd like to be a part of those. Can you invite me to some of those meetings? Now, if they say sure, then that's great. Now, if they say no, I would say, why not? And I'm curious as to what they say, because who knows what that's going to be. But ultimately, the thing that I propose, I suggest the 3 voices model, which I didn't invent. And this is where product, UX, and engineering are equals. And if you're not being invited to some of these meetings, you're not seen as an equal. Stay relevant. Again, what do you mean by that? Because it sounds like if you're saying get into UI UX, which by the way, we don't say here on this channel because UI UX isn't a thing. So I'm not too sure what would make you irrelevant, especially if you're just starting in it. Can you maybe be more descriptive, please? So it's not that you don't have a role in strategy to the person who asked this question. It's more that they don't understand what you do. If they think that you just make the screens that product tells you to make, then you are not seen as an equal. You are not seen as that type of contributor or partner. You are seen as the pair of hands, the grunt worker. And that may be obviously that's the kind of thing I'm going to be talking about in my Transforming Toward Customer Centricity workshop, which you can find on the Delta CX website under training. But I think that this is another time when you have to talk to your manager, because the question is, why am I not part of more meetings related to my project? Why am I not being respected and treated as an equal partner? Now, if your manager is from UX, they should totally get you there, and they should be working towards changing that in a larger way. If your manager is not from UX, and it sounds like they might not be, and they don't really get what you do, then just know that this might not change, and it won't be your fault. You didn't break this, you might not be able to fix this, and it's not because you weren't strategic enough. You might be plenty strategic, but if this company doesn't understand what you do and they think you're just a pair of hands and you just take orders from product and you don't have to be in these meetings and this role isn't a strategic role, then you're probably looking for another job. You're probably getting your resume or CV together, updating your portfolio, and looking for a company that will give you that opportunity. But that means when you are interviewing, you need to ask questions to say, at the level I'm coming in, will I be able to be strategic? Will I be able to take a strategic approach to my own project? Will I be able to have some sort of strategic influence over some of the product direction? So that these are things to ask. But I don't have an easy answer like, oh, here's how you need to be more strategic. You can be super strategic, but if your company is ignoring you or not giving you a seat at the table or not treating you as a partner, your strategy is just in your head, and that's not your fault. So, don't let it sacrifice your mental health. If you can always stay there and start looking somewhere else, but I would definitely talk to your manager about that, since that is something that person should be fighting for. Good luck. Okay, so here is the next question. And then I think we have Alan's question. So we're finally getting through the long list. All right. There we go. So this question says, hey, Debbie, I was talking to the other researcher today about the UX situation at my company. So right off the bat, the other researcher makes it sound like this company, or at least this division or department, only has 2 researchers. And she said that the reason we don't have a good research culture is because one of the other products that the same company built never had a researcher. They built the whole product without any UX research, and it worked. It became such a successful and globally well-known product. So people are convinced they can build a good product without research because they have a good case for it. And I don't know how to explain it. Is it just luck? Well, a few questions here. Number one, if we don't need, thank you for subscribing, Alex. Thank you so much. If we don't need researchers, how do you and the other person have a job? How are you utilized? Are you doing generative? Are you only doing usability testing, as I see so often in companies? They ignore the generative and they just do the evaluative. So first of all, how do you have a job there? Because evidently, if we are so great we don't need researchers, how did they hire 2 researchers? Are they letting you do your job? Number 2, we can all point at the project that went really well, which could have been luck, but I don't know enough about the product to say it was luck or not luck. But what about all the other products and projects? How are those doing? Do you know about any projects that were what I like to call disaster projects? Do you know of any projects where we guessed at something and it was wrong, and it was an MVP that had to be completely rethought or pivot, or something we had to undo, or something we had to issue a press release to apologize for, or something that overwhelmed our customer support because it was problematic? Do you know about the disaster projects? And those are the ones that I would be kind of waving around a little bit more, maybe in some subtle ways, and say, it's so great that this particular project happened to be a hit for us, even when we didn't do the right research. But What about these other projects? Remember Project X? Ooh, you know, that one really would have benefited from some better knowledge up front. And really, we're your business intelligence and risk mitigation team, because releasing something that is just a guess or something we have a good case for, it's risky. And it's great that it worked out for us here. But remember Project Y? Remember X and Y and Z and part of Project Q? Remember how those went, and that we kind of burned a lot of time and money to learn late that it wasn't really the right thing for our customers. And we lost some customers. You know, see if you can find out how many customers you lost, or, you know, things like that. You're looking for the costs of poor quality, which is a Googleable thing because it's part of Lean Six Sigma. Costs of poor quality help us talk to others in the business about the things that burn time and money and end up being waste. So great that we have the shining star example, but do we have other examples? Now, if you don't have other examples, then of course this company feels like 1 for 1. We guessed, we got it right, we're amazing, let's keep guessing. But if they do have other projects that didn't go as well, you're going to want to start waving them around in different ways so that you can say, it's great that that one worked out, but remember this one? Wouldn't it have been great to have known up front that people weren't going to want it, or that people weren't going to use it that way, or it was kind of the wrong idea? So that would be the direction I would go. But if you find that the company really doesn't value UX research or UX researchers, apply somewhere else. And then make sure you ask during the interview how they see UX research and how UX research is used. And are you only usability testing, or will you be doing upfront research to inform strategy and decisions and the product? Move on. Okay, we're finally up to Alan. And then we've got Yinka, though I wish we had more color around Yinka's question. I will take my best stab at it. And then I will answer Anna's question, which just came in on the LinkedIn. Okay. All right. So this question says, for those getting into UX research, how helpful are portfolios? Would it be a good idea to reformat my prior academic research using a UX research lens? Only if that's honest. If you didn't use UX research techniques, don't pretend you did. If it wasn't UX research, don't pretend it is. To me, honesty trumps everything else. Because if you give me we recently interviewed someone where I'm working, and they made it sound like they've done all this UX research and they know all these methods and techniques, and they put all these things on their CV and resume and we didn't see their portfolio. And then when we got them in the interview and we started asking them questions about their methods and techniques and approaches, we learned that they really didn't know them that well, and they really didn't use them that often. And we still have an immediate need for a certain type of researcher, and they hadn't really done that. And of course, then they decided to try to sell us on doing research a different way. No. So I think that the most important thing is honesty, because if there is something you do that is dishonest, and I've seen this on a lot of resumes and portfolios where somebody tries to take a job they had that was a WordPress website and make it look like UX work. But you're not fooling me, because when I see that you didn't interview anyone and you didn't usability test it and the user wasn't involved at all, it's not UX work. You can write UX on it. I still know it's not UX work. If your academic research was truly academic research, be honest about it. Academic research can still be relevant and can be impressive depending upon what you did and how you did it. But I wouldn't want to see you lie or fudge your resume, CV, or portfolio, because a good employer is going to figure it out. And do you want to work for the person who is that easy to fool if they don't figure it out? So I would say be honest about your work. If you are coming from academic research into UX research, you might be starting as a UX junior if some of your academic research skills are not as translatable. So for example, if in academia you did a lot of quantitative and the job is going to be a lot of qualitative and you're newer to the qualitative, You might be a junior. And that's just the way it is. I don't have better news for you. So Alan, if you're still here, let me know if you have a follow-up question or a comment on that. But I think it's really important, and a portfolio is important. So I would make a portfolio. I would be ready to speak to your portfolio and your projects in an interview, but I would not try to make anything that wasn't UX look like UX. If you did not do traditional UX research methods, approaches, things like that, I wouldn't try to make it look like you did, because a smart chick like me or someone else is gonna see through that. And then what do you think we think of you? I do not want to hire the guy or gal or other who's trying to pull some wool over my eyes. I would rather you be honest. You know, we interviewed someone recently at my job who has not done a lot of the type of research we're looking for, and they were honest about that. They said, I want to do more of that, and my current job doesn't let me. And I would like to hire this person, and because I would like to give them a chance. Because they're not coming in at a senior where I expect them to blast through everything. They would come in mid-level. I would like to give them a chance, and I appreciate that they were honest about that. So that's just me. That's just me. All right, so I see some anonymous questions coming in. I've only got 10 minutes left, and then I've got to prepare for a live talk I'm doing, which means I've got my Delta CX shirt on today and everything. But we'll try to get through our last few questions. I would say no more questions today. We will hopefully have time for the ones that have come in. So let's take a look at Yinka's question, though I didn't totally understand it. Maybe we can turn it into something. And the question was, what is the best way to get into UI, UX and stay afloat or relevant? First of all, if you are just getting into either UI or UX, since they are two separate and different things, relevancy is the last thing you need to worry about. You are not irrelevant yet. You're new. So don't worry about relevance. Worry more about, let's see, what would be your response if you're expected to just copy? Yeah, so that is another question. And we've got questions before you. And Dhruva, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I apologize. I gave you an accidentally, possibly Israeli pronunciation. I might not get to your question today. We'll have to put it on the list, but I might not get to it, so I apologize. So I don't know, these are two questions here. What's the best way to get into UI, UX? UI, UX is graphic design as far as I can tell, and UX is not really involved in UI, UX. They just write that on there because it looks good. But UI is just visual design, so how would you get into that? Nobody knows right now. I don't have a good answer. Kayleen says, I've seen two people with PhDs get research jobs and not at entry level, so it could be possible and happening. Yeah, exactly. It really depends on what you've been doing in academia and whether or not it translates, because I've seen things translate, and I've seen people's portfolios from 16 years of academic research, and I didn't think it translated. So it's going to depend on the individual. So there you go. All right, let's jump past this question because it's a little bit too difficult to answer and move on to the next one. Especially because we don't really talk about, I'm not a UI designer, so I don't talk about UI very much. Can I be responsible for UX strategy and research strategy of the same project? Is there a relationship between these? Okay, that came from Anna. Hi, Anna. So hypothetically, we start with a research strategy. The research strategy will define how we are going to approach the research. Based on what we learn from the research, the findings, the insights, the observations, the opportunities, then we come up with the strategy for the design. Now, someone who's at a higher level in the company might do a higher level strategy for these two things together for this project, but I would say, so can you be responsible for UX strategy and research strategy of the same project? Depends on what your role is. If you are a researcher, then you might be defining the research strategy, and you might have the data and information and artifacts that help the designers come up with a design strategy, and you might be involved in that. Like, hey, here are some directions you might go, or hey, your overarching strategy is. And if Larry Marine were here, he would tell you about his ProFlowers story and tell you the overarching strategy was ProFlowers sells occasions, not flowers. You know, that's an overarching strategy that doesn't tell designers exactly how to design. It just gives you a sense of a North Star of what we're shooting for. So Anna, I think it really depends on what your particular role or job is with the company as to how strategic you can be at what level of the project. You're not writing back, so I don't know if you're still here. But that would be some of the things I would be considering before saying, oh yeah, you know, Anna can do the strategy. I don't know what's Anna's job. So do not know. All right. And we got let's try to move through the last one. Okay, this came from the anonymous world. So let me add it to the list. And then we have the last one, which I'll try to blow through these last two in the last 5 minutes. Sorry about having to go so fast, but I have, I'm speaking at an event today and I can't be late. And Priyank, I'm not going to get to your question. Yes, we've talked about this a lot, Priyank. You're going to need a mentor or coach from outside of your job. Oh no, we also have the question that came in through email. Oh, okay. Well, okay, so we're going to have to end with that one. So I'm sorry. Dhruva, we're not going to get to, and Priyank, we're not going to get to. I'm going to have to write them down for next week. Let's write this down for next week. Sorry, I will copy and paste them, so we will start with your questions next week, but I'm going to be out of time today because I have this question and one more. So the question is basically, how do you get into UX research? I can't remember if I put it on the screen. I'm still copying and pasting things. Let's see. Let's go back. Yes, okay. So how do I get started in research? What are the skills? What resources will help me get there? So research is one of those things where it takes a lot of different skills all coming together. So there are skills related to planning the research. Hi, Elliot. I'm ending in a few minutes. You're technically not late. I normally start in 15 minutes, but I shifted today's because I'm speaking at an event. So for research, you're going to have to learn planning the research. You're going to need to learn recruiting the research, which is how do we find the right people and pick and choose the right people so that we have a good representative sample. You're going to have to learn interviewing skills, which I've heard for many people can take 2 years to be good at. It's definitely, some people are good at it earlier, but many people take a long time to get good at UX research interviewing skills. This is not something you can learn fast. Then we have all of the analysis and synthesis. So now that you've done all of these interviews or observations or whatever they are, now what do you do with all of those recordings and quotes and data? How do you find the patterns and the themes? What's really going on here? And how do we dig a little bit deeper and peel away some layers and see the things that nobody else is seeing and bring these together? That's a whole set of skills as well, the analysis and synthesis, finding the insights and opportunities. Then you have all of the skills around reporting that. How do you bring these together in some sort of report, presentation, artifacts, task analysis, mapping, or other things so that you are setting up other aspects of the project for success? How are people going to prioritize what to work on based on what you find, etc.? So I would say UX research is really huge, and it's hard for me to say, here's how you get started. I do like the courses at curiositytank.com, not sponsored, but they are not inexpensive. They are on the expensive side, but I hear they're good, and that will certainly give you a start. What other resources are out there? There are some good books out there, but again, this is the kind of thing you're going to have to learn and practice with a mentor or coach or whoever. I don't recommend boot camps. They look at research in a very surface way. They typically say run a survey, talk to 2 people. That is not what we do, and we rarely run surveys. So unfortunately, I can't recommend your typical boot camps or online courses. All right, let's try to get the last questions out before I have to run. Okay, last question for today, and then we'll save the other 2 questions for the first ones next week. This one came in anonymously, and it says, my manager always puts me in a confused state. I feel like I do everything wrong. I questioned my reality in the beginning, but I'm really good in my team and other colleagues. He always discourages with his critiques. And these are not even my work related, but how I talk or how I'm not behaving politically. I am very tired. I hope your manager will see this, and I'm very sorry that that's how this person is treating you. That is definitely not a good manager. A good manager does not treat someone this way. Feel free to show them this video. A good manager does not treat someone this way. Even if your work has mistakes or problems, there are constructive and helpful ways to say that. Even if they don't like how you talk or behave, I don't even know what that means. And they have to have a good reason to talk to you about that, because there are many good reasons why people don't talk or behave in certain ways. First of all, this person might expect you to talk or behave in an unethical way, and you don't want that. This person might expect you to talk or behave in a louder or larger way, and you're shy or introverted. Yeah, Robert says time to quit. I think we're all headed there with this person's advice as well. You say I'm very tired. And also, I tell people, as soon as you are questioning your reality, start applying for jobs. As soon as you are questioning your reality or feeling imposter syndrome, which I feel is almost always caused by bad managers and bad work environments, as soon as you're feeling that, that is your clue to yourself that you need to get out. And if you don't have your manager's support and help, as it's clear that you don't, I don't know why you would stay there. That is not someone who, it doesn't sound like from what you've said, that this is someone who's going to help you or support you or even speak to you in a reasonable way. So I would say feel free to apply and try to get out of there. And I'm sorry again about how they're treating you. That's not okay, and that's a bad manager, and it's why everybody always says you don't quit a job, you quit a manager. And that's what I would tell HR when I'm leaving. So I don't have a good way to fix this. Normally it's up to our managers. You can always try to go to HR if you think they will support you. Yep, more people saying quit. If you think HR might care or support you, then I say go to them. If you think HR will not care or not support you, don't waste your time and just start applying and get out of there. Yep, everybody says you need to go. Because once you have a bad, and I would tell, and when you leave, I would tell HR why you're leaving. I am leaving because of this manager. I'm leaving because this manager did this and this and this, and when I needed them to do this, they did this. And when I hoped they would do this, they did this. And you're losing me, but you will lose anybody who wants to be treated reasonably and supported. Linda says, should folks quit because they feel imposter syndrome? I feel like it's super common. I'm not sure whether they should try to mitigate it first. Yeah, I think it depends on why you feel imposter syndrome. Sometimes we just have a bout of insecurity and we feel like, gee, am I really doing a good job? I wonder. But when this person is questioning their reality, look at what they've written here. They're questioning their reality. To me, that's like imposter syndrome plus. That's like, what is my reality? Am I, this is gaslighting. Remember, gaslighting is designed to make people question their reality. And I would make sure to tell HR that you are being gaslit, that you are questioning reality. If HR doesn't care, then this company is a bunch of jerks and you need to go. Kayleen says, well, the rest of the team thinks they're doing fine. The reality is that's another thing you can do. I sometimes suggest to people compare notes. Do you have somebody else also managed by the same person? Have a conversation with that person and see if you're alone. Say, gee, sometimes I talk to the manager and I feel like I'm not getting some of the support that I need. Do you ever feel that way? And you might find that it's not you. You might find that it's everybody. Now, if it's just you, maybe that person isn't experiencing it or that person doesn't want to talk about it. That doesn't necessarily change anything. But if you do find out that it's not just you, then give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. Robert says, I love these talks. We need to invite students and new UXRs to listen to reality. Yeah, I always say, please subscribe here and find 3 people who might enjoy my show and send them over. Newbies are welcome. Send everybody over. So unfortunately, I'm late. I'm out of time. I've got to go speak at an event, which is why I've got my Delta CX shirt on. So excuse me, I'm going to run, but we do this every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. I'll be back next week. I'll start with the 2 questions I didn't get to. And then, yes, I've got this stickers as well. And I will, oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm doing my usual improving agility talk at an agile meetup. Yeah, Linda, please keep inviting people. I want to help them. I want them to ask their questions. This is where you can get free, no BS help. And please send everybody over. If you're in other Slack workspaces, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, please tell them about the channel. It is free to join, and we've got over 500 hours of content here. And of course, you can learn more about the stream, like what's coming up, at deltacx.com/links. So good luck to everybody who asked a question today. I hope everything will work out for you, and I am going to run, but we have shows coming up this week. Let's see, tomorrow got canceled. It was going to be Darren Hood, but he's not able to make it, so we've moved him into May, so apologies there, but I will see everybody for Practicing Critical Thinking on Friday, which is our new name for the reaction stream. So thanks everybody, be well, and see you soon. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are